Hey y'all, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are when you see this video. Thanks for joining me to read the out through an Orthodox Christian lens. It is still October 3rd, 2025, but this will come out October 4th, 2025. Let's discuss some disturbing and concerning news that's happened the past few days when Trump and Hegseth spoke to our military leaders, brass, whatever you want to call them, had them all show up so that he could talk to them. And some of the things he said were outrageous. And so I'm going to share the news on that, and then his own words in one particular spot, and then something else I want to share. So let's go first to this news report from a day ago.
This morning, new federal forces are on the streets of Memphis as the Trump administration ramps up its focus on crime in Democratic-led cities.
I see the guns and bats in this room. You are unleashed. The handcuffs that you're carrying, they're not on you anymore. They're on the criminals.
Attorney General Pam Bondi and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth visiting some 200 federal law enforcement officers that have arrived in Memphis. The president had already sent thousands of National Guard troops to Los Angeles and Washington, D.C.
Whether it's the southwest border, whether it was Los Angeles, whether it's Washington, D.C., our department is proud to stand shoulder to shoulder right next to law enforcement while you do your job.
Memphis had the highest violent crime rate in the nation last year, according to data compiled by the FBI. Though local leaders insist that crime is down this year.
It's not something that I asked for. It's not something that I thought is the best way to reduce crime.
And after a politically charged speech to military leaders this week,
we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military.
The president posting the National Guard is now in place in Portland, Oregon. Two defense officials tell NBC News those troops are currently processing and training before they start their mission. Oregon's governor, a Democrat, says the planned deployment could cost taxpayers $10 million over the next 60 days. The state's attorney general and the city of Portland are suing the Trump administration, arguing it's illegal for the military to take part in domestic law enforcement.
The justification for their presence in our cities is either a misunderstanding or a lie.
The federal government now filing its...
Okay, so here we have this issue with Trump using our military against us. Okay, and he's using it as a training ground? I don't think so. Now, I can totally understand that he's upset if our cities can be quite chaotic and violent, as we all know. The history of those places like Chicago, certain parts of Chicago, certain parts of New York City, Portland, Seattle he even talked about. I listened to his speech. I found it kind of, I didn't agree with it. But I'm going to just share this one clip of him saying something that really bothered me. So, here's this.
So see, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night, and they're not going to be fighting back long, because I've instructed them and told them whatever happens, they love to spit in the face of the police as the police are standing up there in uniform. They're standing and they're screaming at them an inch away from their face, and then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit and we hit. And they get hit real hard. So see, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only...
Okay, you spit, we hit. Does that sound like some type of system you want to live under? Yes, of course it's disrespectful to spit at the police officers. But hitting people, and he's saying quite hard, what about being assaulted by a police officer? Sorry, my cat's in the middle of this. I mean, I find this really disturbing. And he's acting like a bully, as usual. I didn't hear any clapping, any encouragement, or approval by the military members. Because why? Why would they want to do that to their own citizens, their fellow neighbors, their fellow American citizens? I mean, this is just... Look, we were against it when we thought Biden, was doing that and was going to do it even as well. I don't want Trump doing it either. So, and I know I was listening to his speech, and he had said, that that ICE, is such a wonderful, reputable, commendable agency. Actually, its history has been quite sketchy. Its reputation has been somewhat, for many, throughout the years, there's been times that are very corrupt, sketchy, dirty, doing things that aren't nice. So all of a sudden, and I was telling my friend this a week or so ago, all of a sudden, ICE has become this squeaky clean, wonderful agency, when for years and years and years it was considered corrupt and sketchy. It's kind of like the three-letter agencies that were mixed up with the drug, pushing the drugs, cocaine and things like that. Well, ICE wasn't much better, in my opinion, from what I've heard over the many years ago. I don't think they've improved, and I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying that all of ICE is horrible and everybody in it is bad. I'm just saying it has that reputation. And I'm okay, that you have to round up criminals, but how you do it, and no, it's not okay to hit somebody just because they spit on you or whatever. That's going to cause a lot of problems. And again, I don't think military members feel comfortable doing anything to their fellow citizens like that. And if they do, that's a bad sign, a very bad sign. So let me play what the two Larrys have to say. Let's see here on this issue.
Larry, what was the whole point of the meeting between Donald Trump and his Secretary of War and generals and admirals? What we're trying to do? What was the main objective, in your opinion?
I have no idea, other than, as I've published the speculation of one possibility was simply, in order for them to have a conversation with the specific commanders, specifically the commander of Southcom and the commander of Central Command, that if they had called them there just individually, that would have attracted attention and tipped the hand that the United States is going to be carrying out military action against Venezuela and Iran. Instead, you do this both, so it's a cover for action. It's an excuse to bring them all to D.C. where you can talk to those two. But also to, I guess it was to, I can't even describe it as presenting a new philosophy. It was disturbing to me on so many levels, as it was to Colonel Wilkerson. The fact that Donald Trump doesn't understand posse comitatus, which is a federal law which prohibits U.S. troops going into cities unless they're under the auspices of a National Guard and it's been activated by a governor.
There is the key, right there. It's illegal to be bringing in military into cities. Why? Because the military is not made for that. The military is to defend the U.S. citizens from foreign invaders and, people that are attacking us. Now, sure, we can have that happening in our cities, people being attacked by other citizens or other people. That's still, as you heard him say, you can call in the National Guard. That is the governor's responsibility. The governor makes that decision. The state governor, not the federal government. This is where the federal government is overstepping its boundaries to interfere with state issues. And the way this is going is, this is why I can see an uprising / civil war coming. Because, look, in the first civil war of our civil war in the 1860s, the federal government was overstepping the state governments. That's why you heard a lot of, and no matter what you disagree or agree, this is the way I understand it. The South was talking about states' rights, and the North was talking about preserving the Union through the federal government. There was still a civil war over it. But I'm telling you, it's not right now to be doing this to states. It really isn't. And, I'm not saying Portland and Seattle and Chicago are not violent and don't have terrible issues going on with violence and everything. Still, it is the governor's decision, not the president.
The fact that Donald Trump doesn't understand that military personnel, ground personnel, infantry, that they're not law enforcement officers, that they don't think or act as law enforcement officers, and creating this meme that they're going to basically treat the citizens of America as enemies of the state. And I understand the frustration with the Antifa rioters. But again, the failure to deal with them is the fault of local authorities refusing to exercise the power that they have.
Exactly. Yep, that's what the state authorities are supposed to do. And whether that's done or not, that is the state's issue. Again, this has become another thing like the other Civil War, a states' rights and a federal issue. They're butting heads and interfering, and things are going to get worse if this continues. This is how the other Civil War started. And I'm not saying anything about, anything about taking sides on that. I'm talking about this particular issue. Not talking about, the slavery issue or anything like that, because, of course, I'm not for slavery, and it needed to be ended and needed to end and all that. I'm talking about just, this seems to have what happened last time with the states and the federal issue. And this is very dangerous to be doing this with our military, like, as I said, against the citizens.
And then Hegseth, I think Doug McGregor made the best point last night, where Hegseth tried to, he said, "Oh, you all took an oath to defend the Constitution," and actually he was talking about Mark Milley, and Milley had made this claim about the oath that they take, failing to understand that the other part of the oath was that you also follow the orders of civilian leaders, and so within this, we have people that do not like with Trump and Hegseth, who really don't have a good understanding of the legal foundations of this country, or they've embarked on sort of their own personal jihad. And it's going to end badly for us, because Hegseth didn't come off as having any kind of gravitas at all. He was, he reminded me of a kid that dresses up like a doctor and tries to pretend to be a doctor, but he's not.
That's exactly what I felt like. Hegseth is over his head. He is not. He's a fool. I hate to say that, but he's just an idiot on these things. He's ignorant on these things. I agree.
Hasn't been to medical school. So this, but the other disturbing thing, and Colonel Wilkerson has heard me say this, is that there wasn't a single member of all of those assembled generals or admirals that stood up and walked out and said, I'm not going to be party to this. They all went along. And that just tells me I view that as a form of cowardice. Because I can't believe that every single man and woman in that crowd agreed with what Donald Trump was saying, because some of the things he said would constitute illegal orders. And instead of reacting, he said, I resign my commission. And there are consequences that come with that. But at least you keep your integrity intact. None of them did.
Let me just add, Nina, that I perceived Trump's remarks, as incoherent as they sometimes were, as saying that he was going to use the military, militia maybe start, but maybe even active duty if the militia was not sufficient, to attack his Democratic opponents in their cities. Essentially, to attack his Democratic opponents in Chicago, in Portland, in LA, wherever they might be. You were not going to see these deployments in cities that registered as largely Republican. You were going to see them in cities that had Democrats. And he couched that in the idea of security because he said the Democratic cities, New York, Chicago, are the worst run in the country. By the way, this has been Charles Koch's message for 35, 40 years in his attempt to take over state legislatures and so forth. Don't think that his fingerprints aren't somewhere in here too.
Yeah. So I actually remember hearing that as well, that he the liberal cities or whatever, there's some problems with some of them. However, that's still not his, it's not his jurisdiction, so to speak. That is governor's issue. Now, having said all that, we're going to go to a video that the Holy Wisdom put out a long time ago, but it's something that Metropolitan Neophytus had said that a holy elder had brought up, and I believe it's the same one that I'm going to show you in a more recent video that was out several months ago. So I'm going to start with this. This is from my video from a long time ago. So anyway, listen to what Metropolitan Neophytus is saying here. He is reading the elder's words. Okay, this elder says there will be a civil war. This is said for Greece, but there will also be a civil war in America. Okay. In political anarchy, that is during elections, of course. Okay. Because they won't want to hand over the power. It's mainly the big cities that will be affected. Now, doesn't that sound like what could be happening now? Just saying. Just saying. Now, I'm going to go to this other video where it's explained right here. The same elder, the elder who wishes to stay anonymous, says, he says a lot of things, but I put in this particular point because he's talking about this, and then it'll be followed by I think there's a few portions. There's like this uprising, and then there's the earthquake. Okay, so let's just center on this for a minute. Okay, to prevent a conflict in the Black Sea Crimea region between Russian and NATO forces, a civil war may erupt in America, an inevitable uprising, whether now or later. Many deeply troubling revelations will surface. I am wondering what he means by that. Many deeply troubling revelations will surface. Are these some of the things that are going to be exposed from those in power that Elder Joseph has talked about? Elder Joseph of Vatopoli saying that all this will come out in the open and they will disappear, which basically probably means that they're going to be not alive anymore. Anyway, developments will unfold rapidly, with the military beginning to round up members of Congress and the government. And remember, he's talking about using the military against the U.S. citizens. And I just found this, and I've read this to you all before, several times, but anytime something that comes up that just reminds me of this, I bring this up to you all to see this. Military beginning to round up members of Congress and the government. That sounds like a coup. Of course, if that happens before the big earthquake, I don't know what's gonna. I don't know, but all of this sounds a lot like what this unnamed elder had to prophesize about, and this was only a few years ago. So, yeah, important stuff here. And like I said, don't get me wrong on the Civil War in the 1860s. I'm not saying, oh yeah, the South was right, or this is great. Yeah, they did their thing. I'm just talking about the issue of states and federal issues, okay, and how uprisings can come about, especially when you're pitting your military that's supposed to defend your people with the people. And that is a dangerous thing to do. It's not a good precedent. And there's a worry if they do, that if some of the military decide that, oh, that's fine. No, it's not. So, I just wanted to share that with you. I hope you got something out of it. Let's keep praying, everybody. Let's keep praying. Those who pray, keep praying. Praying for our country, praying for the world. And pray for God's mercy, and let us all repent. Time seems to be getting closer to this World War III. So, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for following my channel. I hope you all have a blessed evening, morning, afternoon. Until next time.